Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation episode 104. I'm Jeff, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Nindie Nation is your one-stop weekly shop for everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. Today, we have a massive list of indies releasing from February 22nd through the 28th, and then if you still can't find something to play, we'll head over to the deals section to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Nindie Nation hits YouTube each and every Tuesday, and if you prefer to listen, we've got an audio podcast feed which is hosted by our friends at the Nintendo Village. On Thursdays, we stream and chat our way through a couple of new releases during Nindies at Night, and if you can't join us this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, you can always catch the replay later. Follow us on Twitter at Nindie Nation for the latest updates and indie game ramblings, and join the dozens of citizens over in the Nindie Nation Discord server to keep this indie game love train going. Before we get into the largest list of new releases ever covered on Nindie Nation, we first have to look back at what released since last week's episode. We've got 3 titles that look promising, 3 that are a little iffy, and 3 that are absolute Nindie no-nos. So to kick off episode 104 of Nindie Nation, let's start by taking a look at the 9 neglected Nindies that released since episode 103. Gemini is a top-down action game by Cubite Interactive. With simple visuals reminiscent of Forager or Nuclear Throne, your goal is to protect a gem in the middle of the screen and ward off waves of enemies, and it launched last week for $3.99. And we've got a game that I think is worth recommending. Raspberry Mash is the first release by
Ignition M.
And, well, it's Enter the Gungeon. Lots of weapons, a focus on dodge rolls, and of course that means it also has a focus on procedurally generated dungeons, rogue-like mechanics, and RPG elements. But I can't tell if this is actually a new game or just a mod of Enter the Gungeon itself. That's how close it is. Either way, it launched for $16.99. Next up is one of those games that might not be an indie, but it's been a topic of discussion in the Nindie Nation Discord, so we'll go ahead and cover Steven Universe Unleash the Light. It's published by Cartoon Network, yes, but it is developed by an independent studio called Grumpy Face, so it's kinda in the middle. It's a turn-based RPG that looks just like the show, and it has the entire cast along for the ride too. But I don't know the source material, so I can't really dig much deeper. Grumpy Face does have a good track record with Cartoon Network games, so my guess is that if you're a fan of the show and you like RPGs, this is probably worth the $24.99. And then we've got 3 titles that aren't quite no-nos, but I'm also not suggesting you pick them up either. Rodent Warriors looks exactly like Ratalaika's Loot Hero DX, which we played a few weeks back on Nindies at Night, but just not as good. You run side to side and watch the numbers go up as you bump into enemies, and there's a bunch of rats, and sometimes you upgrade and craft stuff. That one released by Jandusoft for $4.99. Digital Game Group released Retro Fighter Dragon's Revenge, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to what this $6 game is ripping off.
Survey said.
Double Dragon. And then we get to one of those games that I don't think looks very good, so to speak, but I'm kind of interested in trying it nonetheless. Ace Invaders is, well, yeah, picture Space Invaders, but you move your ship all around the screen and even aim and shoot at the same time with the Joy-Con motion controls. It sounds weird, it doesn't look too good either. It's from Max Interactive Studio, and it's also $4.99. But I do kind of want to see it for myself. Now you might be sitting there thinking,
Wait, those were the games that were spared as Nindie no-nos? What are the Nindie no-nos this week then?
well, these are the 3 games that we recommend under no circumstances. Containment, which comes by way of a Nindie newcomer called Finite Reflection Studios. It's some kind of Minesweeper-based strategy game about bacteria, and it's $1.99. And rounding out the week, someone get the plunger because Piotr Skalski left 2 turds in his wake. The first is Burger Master, one of those $5 restaurant management games that plague the mobile game stores. There's like a gazillion of these already for free, so I'm not sure why anyone would spend any money on this. And then there's Escape Route, which is a top-down stealth game, kinda like the one we covered last week, which, I don't know, it might not be terrible. But Piotr keeps forgetting that Switch games can actually work on the TV too, so it only works in handheld. It's $3, and since everything else he's released is garbage, I have no reason to think this one's any better. Those first three look pretty good, though. Let me know if you dig Steven Universe and decide to give it a shot. Also, let me know if you think that one counts as an indie and why. It's always an interesting debate. In this case, I think it is because the developer is not owned by Cartoon Network, they just do contract work for them. Jump in the YouTube comments below and let's discuss. Now, this coming week is huge for non-Nindies. There's Persona, Ghosts and Goblins, Bravely Default 2. It's a good week. And while I figured that would mean a light slate of new Nindies, it's actually the most new releases we've ever seen in an episode of Nindie Nation. Strap in, citizens, because we've got 35 new releases hitting the eShop from February 22nd through the 28th. Heideland Gameworks is a Nindie newcomer, and their open-world cinematic hoverboard game set in space seems to be a great first impression. Anchi sets a somber tone with bold colors on an ancient, desolate planet, and you glide around on a hoverboard experiencing a story along the way. Think like Journey or Flower, but set in space. It looks gorgeous and calming, and releases on the 22nd for $17.99. Studio V is also a developer new to the Switch, and on the 22nd, they release Dry Drowning for $24.99. It's a detective murder mystery adventure set in a world that mixes dystopian cyberpunk with film noir and is published by Vigamus Leonardo. If you like Family Guy or Futurama and you fancy point-and-click adventure games, you should probably consider Johnny Bonasera Full Season, which launches for $14.99. It includes all 4 episodes in this animated series about a boy who gets picked on by bullies and then launches his revenge plan on every single one. It's developed by Rafael Garcia, and if past reviews are any indication, you should be in for a really fun ride. On Tuesday the 23rd, Pastech Games and Focus Home Interactive release the diabolically named
Curse of the Dead Gods.
Unfortunately, there isn't a ton of information available on this super stylish roguelike dungeon crawler, but color me interested. It uses that dark graphic novel art style that's seen in games like Darkest Dungeon, but it's in a top-down action RPG format. It's $20 and doesn't even include a trailer, so we'll need to see some reviews first, but Curse of the Dead Gods is definitely going on my wish list because it is a Diablo-style dungeon crawler with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! Oh, excuse me, PixArts? Yeah, hi. You forgot to flush Dinos and Ghosts when you were finished, and it's really starting to smell. If you could please toss this $5 asset flip back in the trash compactor, that'd be great. And if your company happens to fall in too, well, that's good for everyone. Now what is this? Team 17 has a new 4-player title releasing on the 23rd, and their name almost always stands for quality. It looks, sounds, and plays like a classic top-down Zelda game, but Heliocentric Studios took the formula and turned it into a retro-styled multiplayer Nindie trifecta. Rogue Heroes Ruins of Tasos is $19.99 and has a demo available right now. It's loaded with charm, it looks like a ton of fun for an adventure with up to 3 of your friends, and this Zelda-inspired adventure game comes fully loaded with procedurally generated levels, rogue-like mechanics, and RPG elements! Ooh, pitch got higher. Strap in, we got a few more of those. Developer Orange One sure is an interesting one. It's really hard to find anything about this studio, but they're releasing a game this week for $35 that for all intents and purposes looks just like Crazy Taxi. It's called Taxi Chaos, but there's only a few still images available, none of which have any kind of video game interface. The description clearly lays out the rules of Crazy Taxi. Arcade style, pick up the characters and drop them off within the time limit, everything is zany and loud and fast. I wonder if it has Offspring. If they just put a smidgen of effort into their marketing, I might recommend it, but for now, just hold off, I guess. Now, where did I put that offspring sound effect? On February 24th, Ultimate Games kicks things off with Iota,
The Ultimate Platforming Challenge,
for $7.99. It's a top-down game where you swim around as a little spermy-looking thing through gears and other traps, but it's more about slow, precise movement over twitch reflexes. It's got this really cool black on bold color gradient thing going on that I bet looks great in person. Iota seems like a pretty good option if you like challenging platformers, but you're not a fan of the style that we usually see every single week. Okay, so you know those sliding block puzzles that are in like every top-down perspective game? You slide the blocks on the ice in the right order so that you can get it into the middle or whatever. We've done them all a million times. They're in like every Zelda game. That's basically the premise in sometimes used latest release, Active Neurons 3 Wonders of the World for $3.99. It's got a similar vibe to Iota, but in a more calming sense, with the assets being big, blocky pixels against a calming space-like background. Apparently, it has a theme about the wonders of the world or something, but I can't see how that's relevant in this game at all. East Asia Soft's title isn't really doing anything for me this week. Retrace Memories of Death is a visual novel and some kind of romance story with girls in a gothic setting, but all of the gameplay seems to either be just walking around a top-down pixelated room or clicking through dialogue. It's $8 and it really just doesn't seem like much to write home about. But Sayback breaks new ground this week in their efforts to become the biggest piece of on the eShop when they release Night Vision for $10. It is quite literally just an app that displays what the Joy-Con camera sees. For everything that you've published on the Switch so far, Sayback, I hope you eat it as well. That's a poop joke. Far more than just my high school nickname, developer Sean Young and publisher Smash Games kick off a massive Big Thursday drop this week with Littlewood for $14.99. It's a life/farming/building simulator, kind of like Stardew Valley, but set against the backdrop that you're the RPG hero who's rebuilding the town after the world has been saved. You will explore areas outside of the town, and you'll meet wandering survivors who you then convince to take root in your little bustling city, and you'll do all of the mining, hunting, gathering, and crafting you've come to know and love from games like this. Littlewood leverages a cheery 16-bit visual style and should definitely be on your list after you've harvested the moon or seen all of the seasons in the story. But unfortunately, the same day, Mike dies. Mike, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Drop a note in the comments and allow us to pay you our respects before your passing by the hand of Sidra Games. In Mike Dies, the actual name of the game, you platform your way through a big ol' clunky pixelated spaceship and try to minimize the ways in which Mike dies. You can see how Mike dies for $9.99, but personally, I'd just wait for the obituary.
Lawnmower Game Racing
is the newest addition to the Lawnmower game series, says the team at Ultimate Games. It's almost certainly an asset swap and contains such incredible features as
every level has starting point and finish line, and you can cheat and take shortcuts because you need go for every sparkling checkpoints.
Hey, I saved you $5 at least, right? I mean, nobody was really gonna buy this. Developer Somi and publisher Playism release Legal Dungeon for $8.99, and in it, you play as an officer organizing documents on a PC, shifting through evidence, and offering a verdict on crimes from petty theft to murder. There's probably someone out there who thinks this is just the thing for them, but to me, it sounds like a minimum wage job you take during college after receiving too many threats from students during your time as the prick who hands out parking tickets on campus. Hellpoint, however, by Cradle Games and Tiny Build, sounds and looks so cool that I have my doubts this footage is actually from the Switch. It's a third-person action RPG that looks like a sci-fi Dark Souls set in a space station orbiting a black hole. The environment changes and causes dynamic events to occur based on where the space station is in relation to said black hole, and it includes couch co-op as well as an online call for help system similar to the Souls games. The atmosphere looks like top-tier sci-fi, and the action looks complicated and satisfying. Hellpoint launches with a discount for $31.49, and for the reasons I mentioned earlier combined with that higher price, I would say wait for some reviews or direct impressions, but throw this one on your wishlist if you're a Souls lover for sure. Next up on the Big Thursday drop is a game that looks terrible and super fun at the same time. Forward to the Sky is a third-person hack-and-slash RPG by, Hornyon Digital and
Kosen!
that looks, at best, like a Sega Dreamcast game. It's structured like a mobile game where you pick a spot on a tower from a gaudy menu, and then just hack and slash your way through an anime-inspired arena before tackling the next level. Personally, this is something I could see myself chipping away at while watching Netflix, but unfortunately these psychopaths are off their rockers because they plan to charge $48.99 for this game. I have to think that's a typo. This is maybe a $10 game. Maybe they meant to type $4.99. I'd probably try it for that. But nearly $50?
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
If you're a diehard fan of Donkey Kong, and I mean just the classic arcade game, and like a real diehard, like about to start your own line of hot sauce fan of Donkey Kong, then maybe you'll be interested in this week's release by Drowning Monkeys called Castle Kong. It's Donkey Kong, but with a medieval theme. That's it. Oh, and it's $5. Steam Prison is not the name of where I find myself when I waste an entire evening trying to decide what to play instead of just actually playing something. No, it's actually just the name of an anime visual romance novel by Hune X that centers around some kind of Romeo and Juliet plot and... It's $65. $65! That's $65. Those idiots. $65 for anime Romeo and Juliet. That's great. Red Deer Games publishes Underleaves, which is just a game about looking at a picture of a barely animated animal dwelling and tapping on the thing the game tells you to look for. That one's $9, and what is up with the overpriced
Mamma mia!
this week? Who are these people? Gang, I'm almost at my breaking point here. We need a safe word so you know when I'm actually getting close to a meltdown. Let's go with, Massachusetts. Published by a team whose mom said they could be anything they wanted when they grew up, Success releases, and I you not, Codebreaker Puzzle 100 ENG JAN for $9.49. It's just a crossword puzzle, and it's a bad one. They managed to make a bad crossword puzzle. Just literally copy the one in the newspaper. That's all you gotta do. I can't believe I'm gonna say it, but thank God we have a title by Silesia Games. Alongside Wavelight Games, this week they publish a low-budget tactical fantasy RPG that, I mean, it doesn't look good, but at least it's only $5. They couldn't decide on a name, so they just grabbed a Dungeons & Dragons book, threw all of the text into a randomizer, and out came Demons Rise, Lords of Chaos. But hey, at least it knows what it is. Someone at Jandusoft finally played Celeste and was like,
"Hey, let's do that."
Okay, but we gotta change it a little bit.
Okay, make it about a boy.
All right, what does he collect?
Guitar picks.
Guitar picks?
Hey, strawberries were better? Come on.
And out came The Lost Cube for $9.99. Epixer sure has published a lot of games in the Aery series lately. You know, the ones where you fly around a big open world as a bird while some super deep narrative plays out. I've actually been interested in trying one of these sometime because that kind of stuff can be super relaxing. Anyways, this week they publish Aery, A Journey Beyond Time for $6.99. And it looks like the others, which is to say pretty decent, and because of some kind of time travel or something, it includes a much larger variety of levels to explore than past releases. I might try this one out just because my curiosity is starting to get the best of me. If you've played one of the Aery games, let me know what you think in the comments. PlayStige Interactive clearly a division of
Prestige Worldwide.
releases Blastful for $3.99, and it's a completely nondescript arcade space shooter that does not look good at all. I don't know about you, but when I see a game that boasts a deep narrative, especially when it involves something complicated like 2 parallel stories and time travel, and their game's description is just a garbled mess of broken English and grammatical errors, I don't have much faith that the game will pan out very well. Who knows, maybe Wild Kid Games and Gamera Game just have a really bad copy editor. The premise of Clocker and its time-traveling pocket watch shared between a father and daughter does seem interesting, and the paper cutout style visuals do look somewhat appealing, but even at $3.99, I just can't get past the way they let this game speak for itself. Dotori looks decent at least, finally. It's published by CFK and developed by InDev Studio for $9.59, and is an action platformer with visuals that are simple but clearly inspired by games like Yooka-Laylee or even the Donkey Kong Country games. There's nothing too original here, but I like what I've seen so far, what with the double and wall jumping through obstacle course levels and such. It feels like a studio's first game, but it also feels ambitious and designed with care. Might check Dotori out this week as well. We're finally into Friday, February 26th, and rounding out the week with 8 more games, most of which are better, at least, but I may just need to take a trip to Massachusetts by the time this whole thing is done. Artifacts Mundi is back to deliver a watercolor fantasy detective story disguised as a point-and-click adventure, with their $15 release Demon Hunter Revelation. Christopher Bradford has played Artifacts Mundi games before, and he says they're good enough, so take it up with him in the comments below if you want to know more. Dat Game, spelled like you'd see from an 11-year-old meme lord, comes by way of Ultimate Games for $7.99. It claims to be a humorous JRPG with exploration and an isometric perspective, and dungeon-crawling battles in first person. It seems built around general internet humor and features things like leveling up by finding soy milk and lots of tongue-in-cheek JRPG tropes, and it's all delivered within a PlayStation 1 era visual style. Zero Uno Games releases an 8-bit adventure for $17.99 this week, with a description that sounds like something you'd say in one of those nightmares where your teeth fall out. Here we go.
Follow Watracio Walpurgis, our fresh eggplant FBI agent, in this arc of 3 chapters that unifies the universe of Celery Emblem's Jacob Jazz on the Ultimate Baobab's Mausoleum Grindhouse Edition.
In case you're wondering, the last 5 words in that sentence was the name of the game. Now here's an interesting one. I mean, kinda. Not really, but kinda. It's published by Boom Hits, which I've recently learned is actually BoomBit. They changed their name. Anyways, their latest title is Monster Truck XT Airport Derby, and it's $11.99. I'm not gonna lie, it reminds me of the hours upon hours I'd spend sitting on the floor with my friends passing the controller around while playing the stunt mode in San Francisco Rush 2. I kinda sorta maybe wanna get this because I think my 3-year-old son would lose his mind over it, and it has a free roaming mode, so there's opportunity to play without any kind of penalty. Given our track record at Nindie Nation, I'm not so sure that BoomBits will willingly provide a code for this one, but I guess we'll see. Sometimes You drops a fun take on puzzle-based dungeon crawling this week with Dungeons and Bombs for $3.99. It looks a lot like a mix of Crypt of the Necrodancer and Bomberman, where you have a limited set of moves and bombs to clear each puzzle, and the enemies move only as you do. Apparently the premise is that you're saving a princess with a beard, which is different. But hey, the game looks pretty fun either way. Anyone here ever play Bushido Blade back on the PlayStation? It was a one-on-one samurai arena fighter with, at the time, ultra-realistic fighting physics and mostly one-hit kills. Developer Stas Shostak partnered with Samustai to take a similar premise and build it into a more open-world Souls-like game called Katana Kata, which launches for $14.99. It'll launch on sale for $11.99 and seems like a good one to add to your wish list and maybe wait for a deeper sale if a retro samurai Souls-like sounds up your alley. Horned Knight is a low-budget, pixelated throwback 2D platformer that comes to us by Too Awesome Studio. Doesn't seem to do anything too exciting, but it does look competent and fun. It launches for $4.79, which doesn't seem too outrageous, but personally, I'd wait for a sale of $2 or $3 before giving this one a go. And the final new release for this week is, as usual, coming to us by Ratalaika Games, and it looks more interesting than any of their games I've seen in quite a while. Thunderflash is developed by Seep and is clearly inspired by the top-down action shooters of the late 80s like Rodent Warriors or the overhead levels from the Contra series. It looks very true to form, it supports 2-player co-op, and it releases for $4.99. What a week! Can you believe it? 35 new releases. That's crazy. I think I'm feeling Anchi, Rogue Heroes, and Littlewood the most. Nothing too incredible this week, but it's a big quantity over quality spread where the decent ones, at least, are, for the most part, reasonably priced. Let me know in the YouTube comments if something's jumping out for you, and especially if you want to see any of these in this week's Nindies at Night. I gotta tell you, the deals this week are incredible. There's actually 2 major sales happening at the same time, with one batch lasting through February 28th and the other one lasting through March 10th. There's over 700 deals currently available in total. I'm gonna save some of them for next week, and I have a quick must-buy video coming up soon, so today we'll focus on some of the games that haven't gotten enough attention in past episodes, but are nonetheless currently available at their lowest prices ever. These are our picks for the 10 Nindie deals currently available through at least February 28th. Released with little more than a whimper in late 2019, Image & Form dropped a fun and unique real-time strategy game called AntHill that flew under a lot of people's radars. It doesn't quite reach the heights of the SteamWorld series, but it's a great entry in a genre that isn't fully well represented on consoles. AntHill is a ton of fun and is currently 60% off, and at $3.99 you are bound to get a fun RTS fix on your Switch. Another title in the category of underappreciated release from a top-tier indie developer is last year's Vitamin Connection by WayForward. If you liked Snipper Clips and the way it used the Joy-Cons to create a hilarious and fun co-op experience, then this is the next game for you. It's a physics-driven co-op action puzzler that can also be enjoyed solo, but is absolutely best experienced with a friend. It's 30% off for $13.99 and will provide about 6 hours of co-op bliss before you unlock the challenging New Game Plus mode. One of my favorite twin-stick roguelikes is NeuroVoider, and more people should play it. Right now it's $4.19, but here's the thing. It's also included in Plugin Digital's Indie Gems bundle for $3.99. The bundle is 87% off and includes NeuroVoider, as well as Transcripted, a decent mix between a space shooter and puzzle game, and Steriden Binary Stars, one of the better side-scrolling shmups. It's a great bundle for just $4 and includes plenty of procedurally generated levels, rogue-like mechanics, and RPG elements! A couple weeks back, we covered Glyph, a 3D platformer where you roll, fly, and jump around the world as a mechanical ball. Since then, it's been pretty well received, and most who play it mention just how great the 3D platforming feels. As a fairly new game, it doesn't see a huge discount this week, but at 30% off, $14 just might be the price you were waiting for to finally pull the trigger. If you grew up playing platformers in the DOS era of PCs in the early 90s, think Jazz, Jackrabbit, or Commander Keen, stop what you're doing right now and go buy Juiced while it's 60% off for $1.99. Timothy Vanderhoven did an excellent job creating a new game heavily inspired by this classic era of PC gaming, and it is a passion project just loaded with content. Juiced might not win over everyone, but if you remember Monster Bash, the original Rayman, and the aforementioned era of platformers, don't miss your chance to pick up Juiced while it's only $2. Golf Story was one of the indies that really helped kick off the Nintendo Switch's reputation as the modern indie machine. It combines golf with a deep RPG system, an endearing story that offers more than 15 hours of gameplay, and right now it is half off for $7.49. In December, we played a little game called Lo-Fi Ping Pong on Nindies at Night, and it was one of my most pleasant Nindie surprises of 2020. It's a rhythm-based ping pong game with some of the most tactile, accurate feelings of rhythm I've experienced in a music-driven game. The beats are excellent, the vibe is chill, and the game gets way more complex than you'd expect. It's already a cheap game, but when it's 30% off for $3.49, it's in the impulse buy category where I hope many more of you will give it a go. We cover a ton of challenging, Celeste-like platformers on Nindie Nation. There's usually a couple every week, in fact. Rarely, however, do we see an entry that sits among the best in the genre, and Daggerhood is just that. It plays very similarly to Celeste with short, challenging rooms that contain optional collectibles and traps throughout, but its unique mechanic is that at any time you can toss your dagger and then teleport to its location, and that alone opens up a whole new formula to this style of game. We made a Let's Play for Daggerhood a couple years ago when it first released, but needless to say, I gave it our highest recommendation. Daggerhood is currently half off for only $2.49 and includes a ton of content plus even more collectibles to give you a well-rounded, challenging game that can be beaten in a couple of hours but revisited for a dozen more. Similarly, we have no lack of solid arcade-style beat-em-ups on the Switch, so it's really hard to stand out in this genre either. But Die for Valhalla manages to do so and offer a technically sound, if not brutally violent experience worth checking out. Featuring couch co-op for up to 4 players, Die for Valhalla offers 2 primary modes. One is a traditional level-based beat-em-up with 7 different playable character types and an interesting progression with a predictable difficulty curve. The other is a roguelike formula with permadeath and a randomized difficulty that isn't as finely tuned, but is a really cool take on the genre. Both styles are worthwhile, and the game takes a good few hours to complete, so it's got a lot to offer. Die for Valhalla is crazy cheap this week, with an 80% discount for $2.39, and offers far more replay value than we typically see from beat-em-ups, particularly because it features procedurally generated levels, rogue-like mechanics, and RPG elements! Finally this week is one of the best deals I've seen in terms of a completely unique title that includes a ton of additional content and an impressive price-to-quality ratio. Old School Musical is only going to appeal to a certain demographic, but if you fall into it, please do not miss this wonderful game. It's a music game very similar to something like Dance Dance Revolution, but with a controller. The closest and almost exact comparison is Elite Beat Agents for the DS. All of the original music is inspired and usually recognizable as an homage to a beloved classic video game tune. As you play through the game, the background tells the story of a character who travels through video game history from the Atari all the way to current-day releases, and it is excellent and charming throughout. This week's music will feature songs from Old School Musical, so consider that a taste of what's to come. The Old School Musical bundle includes both DLC packs and a 60% discount to bring this bundle of gaming goodness all the way down to $5.19. And if you can't tell, I absolutely think you should pick it up. Talk about a broad selection this week. If you found something you're planning to grab, let me know in the YouTube comments and share your experience with us in the Nindie Nation Discord. Don't forget that there is an incredible sale on the eShop currently, so look out for a short video soon and even more great deals next week. Speaking of next week, we've had a huge episode today, and now, my friends, we've reached the end. Check us out on Twitter at Nindie Nation, chat with us in the YouTube comments, and use the link in this video's description to join the Nindie Nation Discord. We'd love to have you. Don't forget to stop by this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern for Nindies at Night right here on the YouTube channel. I'm not sure what we'll be checking out just yet, so if you've got suggestions, throw them in the comments, and we'll have a great time hanging out and chatting Nindies no matter what. New episodes of Nindie Nation hit YouTube on Tuesdays, but if you'd rather listen, our friends at the Nintendo Village host the audio feed available in your podcast service of choice. If you're looking for more Nintendo-focused content, go check them out. They're churning out daily articles, reviews, and features on their YouTube channel, as well as on the NintendoVillage.com. We've already got a big list of new indies lining up for next week's episode, and for whatever reason, there's a theme already forming. We've got a game about sharks, a game about spiders, and even a game about a mail delivering mole? We'll have to see what all of that's about next week, citizens, because right now, it's time to say farewell. Thanks for tuning in today, and until next week, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation Episode 104. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.